Here are the top 10 reasons why Rise of Skywalker Star Wars Episode 9 is going to be fucking shit. The first reason why Star Wars Episode 9 Rise of Skywalker is going to suck is because all of the characters are unlikable. Rey, you've got the vegan feminist Mary Sue Rey as the main character. Now, I knew she was a vegan before I even Googled it. I actually Googled it just to check, and yes, she is a vegan. Rey, or the character, the person who plays the character Rey, Daisy Ridley, is everything the modern vegan represents. She's a trend-following, group-thinking, virtue-signalling, bigoted, vain, hypocritical killjoy who you know wears leather. She actually does in the Star Wars movie. Finn, token black guy who ticks the diversity checkbox. You don't believe me? We'll get to that in a minute. I have evidence. And that's a disservice to black people everywhere. Black people should be treated like regular human beings, not looked at for their skin colour and given a job because of it. I wouldn't want a job because of my skin colour, and neither should you. That's undermining these people. The pilot guy, what's his name? Poe? That says it all. I don't remember anything about him, and neither do you. Kylo Ren, also unlikable. Emo name, emo haircut, emo face, emo tantrums, looks like a lead singer of an American rock band who won American Idol. No, all of those characters, super unlikable. All of the characters in this film, even the dead ones that you used to like, are unlikable. Number two, the second reason why Star Wars Episode 9 Rise of Skywalker is going to suck is because there can be no romance. Films nowadays basically all pass the Bechdel test. What is the Bechdel test? Well, the Bechdel test is some weird feminist test that says there needs to be at least one woman in a lead role in a movie, and one or maybe two of the movie need to spend a significant portion of the time talking, not talking about men. So basically it's a sexist test that represses men and boosts women. And I think even the creator of the Bechdel test dismissed it. It's an arbitrary test, but now all the films in Hollywood have to pass this stupid test. Why? Why do we have to have equal men and women? There are plenty of roles in real life that are populated by men, aka military, and roles populated by women, aka nurses, because women like that shit and men like that shit. So it doesn't have to be equal all the time, but in Hollywood movies, it's this weird socialist utopian experiment to make everything 100% equal. And by 100% equal, I mean 99% female and 1% male. And the men who make up movies are portrayed to be complete idiots, bumbling buffoons, patriarchal dumbasses who women just don't need. And so there can be no romance in this film. A man penetrating a woman is a symbol of patriarchy and dominance, as I've already said. Yeah, and you're not going to see any romance in this movie. And a Star Wars movie needs romance. You had Luke trying to bang his sister in the original trilogy, and you had Han trying to bang Leia as well. And that's one of the reasons people love the film, because of the romance. And you won't see that in this, because Rey don't need no man. The third reason why Star Wars Episode 9 Rise of Skywalker is going to suck is because profits are down for merchandise and theme parks for Disney. And that is a reflection of the waning popularity of Star Wars due to all the social justice, feminist themes infecting the movie like a cancer that we've already mentioned. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge theme park attraction has fallen flat, and Disney's profits took a hammering last quarter, and that doesn't bode well at all, does it? The fourth reason why Star Wars... I can't fucking say this. Let's just call it Star Wars 9. The fourth reason why Star Wars 9 is going to suck is because the main characters you love, Luke and Han, were turned into fucking bitches. Total bitches. Luke was a grumpy old cunt who disappeared like a fart in the wind. Han was killed by his own son like a bitch on a bridge. His emo rock band, American Idol failing son. And that means this film is going to suck because they basically aren't going to be in it anymore. Luke's probably going to be in it as a Force ghost a little bit. Disney were banking on Rey having enough charisma to have taken over from Luke Skywalker. Even if she had a lot of charisma, she wouldn't have taken over from him, because films like this need a man as the main character, because men kick ass and women don't. Number 5. The 5th reason why Star Wars Episode 9 is going to suck. Well, Palpatine's coming back. And you know what that means? Well, according to my mate Lonely Goomba on Twitter, that means Vader sacrificed himself for no reason. Luke became a bitter old man and died alone. And Palpatine is still alive. That's a very good reason why this film is going to suck. Bringing back Palpatine is a really fucking bad idea. And it just destroys the entire legacy and point and tension and drama and suspense and history of the original Star Wars films. The 6th reason why Star Wars Episode 9 is going to suck is because they lied about Palpatine's return. And Kathleen Kennedy said Palpatine was slated to be in this movie since The Force Awakens Episode 7. But Colin Trevorrow, who was the original director for Star Wars Episode 9 before he was fired and J.J. Abrams was brought in to direct, said that Palpatine was only brought in when he was working on the film. So they're lying about the production. That points to some bad stuff going on. There have been a lot of rumours about reshoots. Whenever there's reshoots, it points to disaster. And apparently it's been confirmed. All of the rumours are true. Just check it out on Reddit now. They're all coming out now. They're all confirmed. There have been about 6 reshoots of the ending. There have been various script writers. There have been a lot of rewrites and a lot of problems with this movie, which is basically symbolised by Palpatine being desperately wheeled out into the film to attract older fans and original fans, which is ironic because this whole series was pitched as getting rid of the old and bringing in the new. But you're going to bring in Palpatine because one of the whole themes of your movie hasn't worked. And if it hasn't worked up until Episode 9, as in all the old characters are dead, but the new characters are unlikable, you are now completely fucked. The 7th reason why Star Wars Episode 9 is going to suck is, I just mentioned this, but let's ram the point home. There have been about 8 different directors on board, many fired by Kathleen Kennedy, the producer of Star Wars. The 8th reason why Star Wars Episode 9 is going to suck is because Kathleen Kennedy ignored George Lucas's lore and stories. So she said that every one of these movies is a particularly hard nut to crack. It's kind of British and American accent. We're going to go American now. We don't have source material. We don't have comic books. We don't have 800-page novels. We don't have anything, said Kathleen Kennedy. But George Lucas had absolutely shitloads of content handed over to Disney. George says, I have story treatments of 7, 8, and 9 and a bunch of other movies and obviously hundreds of books and comics and everything you can possibly imagine. That's what George Lucas said. So Kathleen Kennedy has ignored all of this shit from the original creator of Star Wars, because who needs a fucking man? I'll tell you who needs a man. Star Wars, because men fucking created it. Stupid bitch. Man, I'm starting to get mad now. So, I mean, look at the video game Knights of the Old Republic. That video game came out like 10, 12 years ago. And it was amazing because it's full of great Star Wars lore that was clearly from the vaults of George Lucas. They should have made Knights of the Old Republic from Xbox into a movie. It would have been amazing. It's been floating around forever. And the current producer, Kathleen Kennedy, ignored all of it. So she's a liar. The producer is a liar. And if she's not a liar, she's a fucking idiot and she shouldn't be working on Star Wars. Star Wars is amazing. We don't want some modern day political bullshit feminist shite in it. There's always been politics, but it's been classic politics, the fall of democracy and whatnot. Communism has been in these movies, not modern day trend politics. The 9th reason why Star Wars Episode 9 is going to suck is because of the rumours of production trouble. We've actually already had that one, but fuck it. I'm running out of things to say because we've covered it pretty much from head to toe. Okay, yeah. So look, there's basically 8 reasons why Star Wars is going to suck, but I think you get the message. It's pretty fucking obvious. There's loads of bad rumors about this movie in the last couple of weeks. The movie should have hit fever pitch, and everyone should be going mad about it right now. I'm really excited, but the only news stories you're hearing and seeing are ones that point towards a troubled production cycle for Star Wars Episode 9. And let's now look at various internet articles proving all the points that I just said. So I've got a whole bunch of things here because I wouldn't say loads of anecdotal evidence without providing some footnotes. Now, would I? So there's quite a lot here. I hope you've got a little while because we're going to go through it all. And there's going to be videos as well. So come to my screen, people, and I'm going to reward you with all the evidence. So listen to this.
Kathleen Kennedy. Instead, she volunteered this little nugget. Every one of these movies is a particularly hard nut to crack. There's no source material. We don't have comic books. We don't have 800-page novels. We don't have anything other than passionate storytellers who get together and talk about what the next iteration might be. We go through a real normal development process that everybody else does. Oh Jesus, tap dancing Christ. According to the head of Lucasfilm, the company that runs Star Wars, there is no source material.
I have story treatments of 7, 8.
Look at Kathleen's face. Look at her fucking face. This is when George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney. She's like, I've got you, you silly cunt. I'm gonna fuck you right up the arse, George. You're in so much trouble now. Bend over the desk, motherfucker. I've got you. Look at that devilish grin. She knows she's gonna inject her cancerous feminism. She's gonna piss it all over this movie.
And a bunch of other movies, and obviously we have hundreds of books and comics and everything you could possibly imagine.
So there you go. Evidence of Kathleen Kennedy lying, evidence of Kathleen Kennedy ignoring all of the lore of Star Wars, which would have served her so damn well if she had just bothered to use it and gotten her selfish, narrow-minded political viewpoint out of the goddamn motherfucking movie. Let me give you some more evidence because I am just so damn generous. Let's see what we've got here for you. Oh man, this is really going to make you cringe. So have a look at my screen now and get ready to be annoyed. Here's Kathleen Kennedy, the ogre herself, feminist ogre.
I did pose this provocative idea, who is Luke Skywalker, that would be something that was said by one of our characters.
Why was who is Luke Skywalker such a fascinating question?
I guess because it spoke to a new generation. It was that idea.
Look at this knob. This is the guy who directed Force Awakens and the guy's directing this installment of Star Wars.
That there would be young people for whom Luke Skywalker was essentially a myth.
There isn't a day that goes by or went by as we were making the movie where we don't talk about George. You know, it's the standard, what would George do? One of the things that we talk.
You lying bitch. You just said there's no source material, and now you're saying we wonder what George would do on a daily basis. Do you know what George would do? He would have used his storyboards for the sequels to Star Wars, which you didn't. And then listen to this.
About very early on was that the villain in the movie be young.
Okay, look at her. She's like, it's got to be young. Let's give the youngsters a chance. This whole thing is like the way you treat a kindergarten. A classroom full of 4-year-olds. Hey, the youngest, stand on the stage and clap your hands. Everyone clap your hands for the youngest. Now the girls, aren't girls amazing? This is the way she's treating the movie, like a kindergarten diversity indoctrination experiment.
He's in the midst of adolescent angst.
And Kathy's like, Adam Driver. We're like, mic drop.
Mic drop, yeah, you silly tossers. You hired possibly the worst casting ever for Star Wars villains. Awful. Next, film. Oh man, it's gonna fuck you up.
Kathleen Kennedy, who evidently isn't even aware of the existence of any of this, appointed a new all-female story group led by social justice activists Kiri Hart, who
Look at this. So these are the writers for the entire Star Wars saga, episode 7, 8, and 9.
instead, Kathleen Kennedy, who evidently isn't even aware of the existence of any of this, appointed a new all-female story group.
Look at this. This is the most sexist thing ever. She hired them just because they're women. Well, why don't we just hire people just because they're men? What kind of fucked up people are these? They talk about equality and they do the exact opposite. This is the most unequal thing ever. It's 100% unequal.
Led by social justice activists.
Social justice activists. Why the fuck is this ogre in charge of Star Wars? What the fuck is going on?
Kiri Hart, who has since been fired.
She was fired after 1 year, this bitch.
Pablo Hidalgo. I am left with the impression that fans of...
Okay, so fucking hell, mate. They hired all women to write Star Wars with no fucking experience just because they got tits and a pussy. How sexist is that? These dirty, dirty hypocrites. You want to see some more shit? Check this out.
Has an amazing uniqueness to what he does. He also writes as beautifully as he directs, which is quite incredible. And he writes amazingly fierce and independent women. Has an amazing...
Hey, guess what? Newsflash. Women have made it. You're equal now. You can vote. You can do whatever men can do. There's affirmative action to push women into roles at Google, all the biggest big tech companies in the world, and jobs everywhere. Women get fucking all the money when they fuck a guy and divorce him. You made it, ladies. If you give these harpies an inch, they're going to take 1,000 miles now, and they're not going to stop until they've taken over and destroyed everything, starting with Star Wars. So, really though, if you're saying women are so great and women should have all these roles, you're not doing a very good job, because you're in charge of Star Wars and you've turned it into a pile of dog shit. Just saying the truth. All right, next article. So let's try to read some of this. This article's in the New York Times. It says, in new Star Wars, Daisy Ridley and John Boyega brace for galactic fame. So this was written before Force Awakens actually came out. And there's some interesting stuff in this interview that you're probably going to want to see. So firstly, what kind of professional training did you have? Daisy says, it wasn't training as such, much like the Skywalker movie, no fucking training. It wasn't training as such, she said. I went to performing arts school, but the reason I went was because I was naughty at my primary school, so my mum thought if I was busy then I wouldn't be, and it worked. I auditioned for this agency. I got an advertisement first and then something else, which I got fired from. It was soul destroying, and the next thing I got, I thought was going to be my big break, and they cut the role. It was only the year that I started auditioning for Star Wars when I really started getting roles. So this is basically Daisy Ridley's first ever job. And she was given it because she was a woman, not because she was good. And that's what happens when you give people roles not based on merit, based on racial profiling or gender profiling. And it brings down the standard overall, and other people who deserve the role just get looked over unfairly. Socialism at its best. Okay, so here we go. This is the article that you don't really see written about much online. It's really buried and hard to find. But this is proof that J.J. Abrams and I'm guessing Kathleen Kennedy hired people by racial and gender profiling. Listen to this. So this article on /film.com is headed, let's talk about J.J. Abrams' racially diverse cast for Star Wars 7. So this is June the 2nd, 2014, before Force Awakens came out. Let's read this article. So it says, when the first photo posted of the initial grouping of cast members for Star Wars Episode 7, some critics quickly jumped on the film for only adding one new female role. No one gives a fuck. Only you weird leftist echo chamber living motherfuckers care about this. The article continues. Those who were paying any attention, however, saw that the leaked Star Wars casting breakdowns featured multiple roles for women. Yay! This is what I want to see in my Star Wars film. The trade papers did their homework and hours later reported that 2 more female roles were yet to be cast. Today those actresses were announced. With so much negative second guessing and uninformed ranting about story and characters we don't even know anything about yet. Yeah, don't judge it, guys. What could possibly go wrong here? I thought I'd point out something positive. We have heard rumblings that during the casting process, J.J. Abrams has been fighting to hire a more racially diverse group of actors for Star Wars Episode 7 than has ever been seen before in the series. Yay! Yay for diversity in politics in movies. Inject your own selfish, self-indulgent political beliefs into the movie and I'm going to go like this. Yay! The article says, that's a move away from the traditional Anglo-Saxon ensemble of the earlier Star Wars movies. Yes, those white motherfuckers, let's move away from them. Now that the main crew is nearly complete, we have learned that the core Star Wars 7 cast is made up of a few racially diverse actors and actresses. So we've got John Boyega, Lupita Nyong'o, and Oscar Isaac. While racially diverse cast should be standard by now, a study in 2011 found that the lead actors in the top 172 Hollywood films were 89.5% white, leaving only 10.5% minority representation, which is exactly right, because in America, where this is being cast and this is being pitched, black people make up about 10 to 13% of the entire population. So having 10.5% in Star Wars is an accurate reflection of America as a whole. The article continues. The cast of Star Wars 7 breaks the pattern to some extent and should be taken note of. A few actors isn't a lot, but it is 1/3 of the 9 announced new cast members. And did I mention that this probably is going to be the biggest movie of all time? Not bad, considering the original trilogy featured only one lead black actor on screen as a talking human character. Lando, who was the fucking man, by the way. So we've got a history of non-white actors in Star Wars. But let's keep going, because I want to get this evidence that's going to show you that J.J. Abrams and probably Kathleen Kennedy racially profiled and gender profiled people for Star Wars Episode 9. So look at this. The article says, in February 2013, Abrams appeared on the By the Way podcast with Jeff Garlin, where he talked about the time where his efforts to push diversity backfired on him on the television show Undercovers and how it was all his fault. I wonder why it backfired, casting people because of their skin colour and sex over their ability. What could possibly go wrong? Abrams was approached by the head of Warner Brothers Television to create a television show like Heart to Heart, whatever that is. Instead of turning down the opportunity, Abrams decided to take on the challenge. Here is the story as Abrams describes it. We came up with this show that was this honestly standard thing. It wasn't a great script. Well, they said they wanted to make it and we cast the show and we did it. The thing that killed me the most of all, frankly, was we wrote it without even thinking about who'd be in it. We wrote these characters, but when we went to cast it, one of the things I'd felt, having been to the Emmys a couple of times, you look around the room and you see the whitest fucking room in the history of time. It was just unbelievably white. And I just thought, we're casting the show and we have an opportunity to do anything we want. Why not cast the show with actors of color? Like, not for sure. And if we can't find the actors who are great, we shouldn't. But why don't we make that effort? Because it wasn't written that way. And isn't that the cooler version of doing this as opposed to saying this is an urban show? What? These people, they've got too much money and they're still depressed and they're still taking opioids and antidepressants and all kinds of trash. And they're looking for a way to fill that void, that nihilistic void, in my opinion. And so they basically have to self-flagellate, and hate themselves for being white, hate themselves for their history, and virtue signal like this to make themselves feel better, like they really give a fuck about these people they're talking about. So there's some more evidence why Star Wars is going to be fucked, because this guy, who's already made a shitty first one, Star Wars Force Awakens, which some people loved, and I called out as shit as soon as I saw it, check out my video, that guy is writing the latest film with all this controversy surrounding it. We're all fucked, people. Man, there's so many more articles, damning articles. Check this one out. The Women Who Run the Star Wars Universe by New York Times. So this is a little profile. This is the woman who's fired. She's the head of Lucasfilm Story Group. And this is the lead writer. She basically has no experience. This is her ethos. As a writer, I was very hungry to create female characters who felt real. What if I said, as a writer, I wanted to create male characters? Why, again, this weird social conditioning? Men create male characters because men identify with men. Men are adventurous, warring bastards, basically. We're animals. We like to fight, we like to hunt, we like to fuck, and we like to sleep. And that comes out in the scripts we write. That's a manifestation of George Lucas and him being a man. He didn't sit there saying, I'm going to put a man in here because I want to do some kind of weird gender experiment. He just did it because he felt that was natural, and men are going to do that. I could accept it if this woman just said, I want to write a good Star Wars story. But the fact she's plotting to put women in means she shouldn't be writing for fucking Star Wars. Get rid of these people. Get some proper fans in who love the source material. Fucking hell. So this article is unbearable to read, but listen to this, right? I'll read the first paragraph. Princess Leia is tough, idealistic, and frequently sardonic, yet she's also quiet. Women in the original Star Wars trilogy spoke fewer than half as many words as their male colleagues did. Leia's limited dialogue in Star Wars went unchallenged in 1977, but 40 years later, the lack of meaty roles for women and people of colour in Hollywood is under new scrutiny, while those in the film industry ponder how to better reflect the diversity of human experience in their scripts. At Lucasfilm, a small group of women and men may have found one answer. So these are the people who are fucking up Star Wars. It's some weird, big diversity experiment. And just another reason why this Star Wars film is going to be awful. This is what the left does, as I said at the beginning of this video. They do some weird shit, and then when normal people go, what the fuck? They go, you're a sexist, you're a racist. They antagonize you into the political conversation. It's just maddening. Don't fall for it. Just because you don't like this forced diversity doesn't mean you're a bad person. The people who've done this are the bad people. They think women are idiotic when women are free and fine. They treat them like children, and they do it to make themselves look better. They don't give a fuck about them, and they certainly don't give a fuck about you, but they still want your money. You're going to give it to them? So Variety has confirmed Kiri Hart is out of the Lucasfilm Story Group. Kiri Hart, who established Lucasfilm Story Group, now acts as a consultant for Lucasfilm, will serve as creative advisor, and then she's got fired. Next article, yeah, this is the tweet. And then look at this, the Force is female. So you're talking about equality and more representation, but this is all women. The Force is female is not equality. It's 100% inequality. So this woman is basically a misogynist. She thinks men are douchebags. Look at the way she portrayed men in the movie. Took the most beloved hero, possibly in Hollywood history, Luke Skywalker, and reduced him into a snivelling, snarling old cowardly fucker, and got Han Solo kicked off a bridge by some twat who couldn't even beat the untrained Jedi Rey in the first movie. Here she is, look, wearing the t-shirt as proof. So this article in Odyssey says, Kathleen Kennedy is ruining Star Wars with her feminist agenda. The Force is female? Really? Give me a break. So this article I kind of liked. It says things like Kathleen Kennedy thinks that women can't relate to Star Wars male characters like Luke Skywalker. So let's just make loads of female characters that men can't relate to. Hey, how about that? She says... The author says that Kathleen Kennedy thinks women can't relate to Darth Vader and Han Solo, so in their place they've inserted Leia and Rey in the roles of lead characters to make Star Wars more female-friendly. Let me just say this, Star Wars was created by a man. George Lucas wrote and created this magnificent tale. The first fans to flock to it were male. I mean, there probably was a few female fans, but it was mostly directed at the male audience. The feminist agenda is starting to take over the Star Wars saga and ruin a fictionary tale that has been treasured by fans all over the globe, male and female. Let's look at what's taken place since The Force Awakens have come out. We meet Rey in The Force Awakens. Supposedly, this mysterious girl that we know nothing about can hear the Force. She's never had any kind of Jedi training, but she automatically knows how to wield a lightsaber and can use a blaster. Oh, and let's not forget that she can use the Jedi mind trick, which is supposed to take years of training to learn. Rey's made out to be the strongest character in this movie. The male characters are made out to be stupid and unconfident in their abilities. Let's take Finn, for example. He's a stormtrooper for the First Order. He's unsure of his place and decides to rebel against the First Order. In doing so, he meets Poe, a pilot for the rebellion. And what about Kylo Ren? He's to be the big bad villain of the movie, and it turns out that he's insecure of his abilities and gets defeated in the end by, you guessed it, Rey the newbie to the Jedi ways. To continue this path of phasing out the male leads, in The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker, who has been around since the first film, is taken out of the story. Rey goes to visit Luke so she can be trained in the ways of the Force. After keeping Rey at bay for so long, Luke eventually gives in to her training and gives her 3 lessons in the ways of the Force. Long story short, Rey turns out to be a hero in the end and Luke is killed off. Really? Kathleen Kennedy is phasing out the male heroes of the Star Wars saga. She's turning it all female. The Force is female. Really, give me a break. She's turning it into an all-girls world. She's making it female-friendly at the expense of losing millions of male fans. In my opinion, women are welcome in the Star Wars saga, but not to take over. If you want more female involvement, go invent your own story, Kathleen. Don't ruin Star Wars because you think that the females of this story should be in charge. So that is the best fucking take I've heard on it by Tila Simmons, a woman from New Hampshire University. God bless you, Tila Simmons. More shit. So now we're going to see some LGBT stuff. This gives LGBTQ people a bad name. When you see these fringe LGBTQ people who are trying to inject their stuff into movies as well, when they represent such a tiny portion of everything, it makes them look bad. It makes them look bad. Why does it have to be a fight between straight people, LGBTQ, women, black people, Chinese people? Why does it have to be this fight? Why does it have to be like this? Kathleen Kennedy and Disney are the ones who are making it into a divisive thing. No one gave a fuck about this before. My cousin, one of my heroes, he's black. He loves Star Wars. We used to play Star Wars together as kids. We didn't give a fuck if it was female, male, whatever. We just liked it. But Disney is turning people against each other. Look at this. This is a change.org article. Include LGBTQ characters in the Star Wars films. See, now everyone's expecting representation. Fuck, let's put aliens in there. Let's put bestiality in there. Let's not leave anyone out. Listen to a quote by Kathleen Kennedy on this change.org thing by an LGBTQ activist group. Kathleen Kennedy says, "The demographics within our business don't reflect society, and they certainly don't reflect the audience. There should be many, many more faces of colour, many more women, many more gay people. They're obsessed with minorities. They're obsessed with left-wing politics. Star Wars is not the place for this nonsense." You know it, I know it, we all know it. I could go on and on. There's plenty more articles. There's one here on Digital Spy where Kathleen Kennedy says, speaking at the Fortune Most Powerful Women Summit in Washington, the producer added that she would be keen to have a female director for one of Star Wars' upcoming spin-off films. There's nothing we'd like more than to find a female director for Star Wars. So Star Wars is just a vehicle for her own extreme brand of politics. What a selfish, narcissistic, arrogant cunt. The millions, tens, hundreds of millions of Star Wars fans are not important to this woman. Like, Star Wars gave hope to a whole generation of people, and you're just gonna, don't underestimate the power that classic movies and music has on culture. They transcend generations, space and time almost. And Kathleen Kennedy doesn't give a fuck. She's gonna fuck it all up for her own selfish aims and interests. What a fucking bitch. Star Wars executive staggered by teaser reaction, says BBC News. So this is before The Force Awakens. This has some feminist stuff in it as well. So what we're seeing here, like, this weird political shit has been in it since the beginning. And you can lay the blame squarely at the high heels of Kathleen Kennedy. Star Wars has become a political vehicle. Don't mix politics, current day, modern, trend politics and entertainment, or with sport. People don't like it. It will hurt your viewers. Is it really so hard to just hire people who like Star Wars? Is that really so fucking difficult? This BBC article from before Force Awakens says, strong female roles. Disney is also preparing to release additional stories that explore the Star Wars universe beyond the core films. The premise of the first of these anthology movies was another revelation made to fans at the celebration. Star Wars Rogue One will follow a group of resistance fighters who team up to try and steal the plans to the Death Star. The blah blah blah. British Oscar nominee Felicity Jones will play a rebel soldier. According to Kennedy, Jones's role, like Ridley's Rey in upcoming The Force Awakens, is a deliberate choice to have powerful and realistic characters of both sexes in the films. We're putting women in strong roles, she says. We're just changing things up a bit. A bit! It's the central theme of your fucking film, you bitch! So that the characters inside the Star Wars universe reflect the audience. And that's what I think in general most movies should do. And why not Star Wars? Well, I don't think most movies should be a political experiment, especially for fanatical politics. And why not Star Wars? Because Star Wars is the most beloved movie ever in science fiction, if not of all time. Why pick that one to destroy? There's more articles. I mean, can we fucking go through all these? We've got evidence that Star Wars merchandise and sales are dropping for Disney because of all the aforementioned information. This article on WeGotThisCovered.com says, interestingly, last year the company reported that revenue for the consumer products division had dropped 4% from 2017 and was down 15% from 2016. These include merch and sales from Marvel Comics as well. So just give me some evidence there. Now, there's an interesting post on Reddit regarding the Lucasfilm story group, that group of story writers of women who were just hired based on their sex. This guy says, yesterday I wrote a comment looking for more information on the story group and the people involved in the writing of Star Wars. I went ahead and started researching and was absolutely dumbfounded to discover that collectively they practically have zero experience in writing or entertainment. It was suggested that I make a post with some of that info, so here it is. The Lucasfilm story group. Let's start with the head of the story group, Kiri Hart, who you know has since been fired. Kiri Hart's experience is, to say the least, lacking. Her writing credentials are 1 episode of Crossing Jordan in 2003 and 1 episode of 1-800-Missing also in 2003. She worked as a story editor on 7 episodes of Crossing Jordan in 2003, and then nothing is listed on her IMDb until 2014 when she earned a credit on a Phineas and Ferb Star Wars special. I've absolutely no idea why this person was chosen to lead the new Lucasfilm story group that would be in charge of continuity and crafting the overarching stories between the trilogies and standalone films. Not only did she never work on anything Star Wars, but she only ever wrote 2 episodes of television 9 years before being hired by Kathleen Kennedy. What the fuck? Here is a 2017 New York Times article about Kiri Hart and the story group. This part stood out to me. Kathleen Kennedy founded the group in 2012 when she succeeded George Lucas as president of Lucasfilm, putting Kiri Hart, a former film and TV writer, in charge of the unit. Ms. Hart's first move was to make the story group entirely female, starting with Rain Roberts and Carrie Beck. Both women had experience in film development but had also worked in other arenas, Miss Roberts in magazine publishing and Miss Beck with the Sundance Institute. I'm seriously speechless learning that Kiri's primary criteria for choosing people to hire for the story group was their gender. Let's take a look at Kiri Hart's first 2 hires, Rain Roberts and Carrie Beck. Rain Roberts' IMDb states that her experience prior to story group was an assistant to someone on a movie called Life as We Know It, and as an associate producer for 2008 documentary called Fair Trade. That's it. Nothing else before joining the Lucasfilm story group. Carrie Beck's experience isn't any better. Her only experience listed on IMDb before joining the story group was as an executive producer for a made-for-TV movie in 2010 called Ghosts Aliens. That's all. Pretty weak experience in film development, as the New York Times article put it. So let's go on and take a look at the rest of the Lucasfilm story group members. Up next is Diana Williams. No experience at all prior to joining the Lucasfilm story group. So this is damning evidence proving that Star Wars has been fucked since the beginning. Kathleen Kennedy has destroyed the series. It's basically all her fault, and that feminism in its modern form is cancer. A picture says 1,000 words, people. Why is it important that men directed the original trilogy? Look at this. Look at these motherfuckers. A couple of boys, alphas, a fucking alpha actor and an alpha director, a nerd but alpha director, sitting there, kicking it back, realizing their childhood testosterone-fueled dreams on celluloid. You can't replace that shit. You just can't replace it. There's a picture I just deleted. I just got rid of it. It's George Lucas with a fucking sword, a huge claymore dug in the dirt. Men like swords. Men play with that shit since they're young, and men created Star Wars, so stop fucking with it. And finally, look, this is masculinity in all of its glory. Han Solo. You just simply can't replace that like for like with women, because women are different. And if you try to do that, you're going to get some tomboy lesbian type actress like Daisy Ridley. So there you go. This was just a complete rant. I tried to keep it as structured as possible. I tried to make it a top 10, a bit clickbaity, which dissolved into a top 8 and just became a rant about Star Wars. But at least I gave you some footnotes and evidence. And this, my friends, is why Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, is going to be a big pile of shit. It is completely broken. The characters were so unlikable from the beginning, with no story arc, no progression. They're infallible, they're invincible, so there's no sense of danger whatsoever. You cannot suspend your disbelief at all. And if you don't like them even 1%, and right now my like for these characters is about minus 1,000, by this point you're never going to like them in a third film. And not only that, tie everything I just said in with the fact this film has had 6 different endings, loads of reshoots, loads of rewrites, Palpatine wheeled in at the last moment despite the ethos of the film being get rid of the old and bring in the new, and about 8 different directors, loads of which were fired by Kathleen Kennedy, which is basically unprecedented, especially for a blockbuster of this magnitude. And you are guaranteed an absolute clusterfuck for Star Wars Episode 9, which comes out in a couple of days. And make sure to come back here, because I will be completing my triumvirate of reviews of this modern Skywalker series. You can go check out my review of Force Awakens. I called it out for the bullshit it was from day dot. Loads of people missed that, I didn't. Then check out my Last Jedi review. The first one got 30,000, the next one got 130,000 views, and I'm hoping this one gets me a million, billion, gazillion reviews and enough subscribers to monetize my life forever, so I can just keep ranting. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as my videos drop, because, well, that's what all those other cunts tell you to do, isn't it?